Hello everyone, good afternoon, and thanks for joining me in the Steve Wright commentary. Let me hope you're keeping safe, and let me hope also too that you're following the protocols and are hoping for a better life not too far from now with COVID. Let me hope you're taking the vaccine so that things are going very smooth and we will turn the corner very soon. I got a great one here for you this afternoon. I'm going to ask you to just turn your Bible to St. Luke chapter 9 verses 7 to 9. And it speaks about a gentleman by the name of Herod Antipas. Herod wanting to see Jesus. And the title of our talk this afternoon is, Do you want to see Jesus, and why? Do you want to see Jesus, and why? Here, Herod Antipas, he was a good friend of John the Baptist. He likes his teaching, and he would always listen to John the Baptist. But John the Baptist died at his hand. After John the Baptist died, he started hearing about Jesus. And the Bible said he heard so much great things, the way he taught and the things he do. And the Bible said he was perplexed. In other words, he was puzzled. In other words, he was wondering. And so the Bible said he desires to see Jesus. He will want to have a conversation with Jesus. He will want to interview Jesus. There are so many people in the Bible, when Jesus walked on earth, that they wanted to see Jesus. People wanted to see Jesus for all different type of reason that they want to see Jesus. There are folks, when Jesus walked on earth, they wanted to see him because they were sick and doctors could not help them. Persons were hungry and the government didn't do nothing. Persons were sick and the government could not provide a proper health care. So people wanting to see Jesus when he was on earth. So everywhere Jesus goes, a great multitude of people followed him. They were hungry, they were sick, and they wanted something. The government failed to provide health care for people in Israel. The government failed for a better economy in Israel, and so here comes Jesus, and somebody has to say, praise God that there is a Savior. In our society today, and in our world today, there comes a deadly virus, COVID-19. The government all over the world, they are struggling with health care. They are struggling with the economy. And people are suffering from their own economical health care problem. I am wondering, if Jesus was here today, what would it be like? Would you want to see Jesus physically on earth here today? I would. Let me tell you why. I would have loved for Jesus to be here right now. Because if Jesus was here right now, I would have flocked him. And I know you would have flocked him too. Because you would have gotten rid of COVID-19, because Jesus would have come the mobile hospital. If Jesus was here right now, the supermarkets would fail, because Jesus would wrought a miracle and would have fed thousands of people. I am not sure the government back then, they didn't like him because he was doing that. I'm not sure today, if he's here, that the same government would have liked him, because he would have been hurting private sector business. He would have been hurting the supermarket. He would have been hurting the hospitals because he would have taken care of the poor. So when he walked, there were so many people who wanted to see him. People even carried their friend who doctor could not help. There was this lady, she was sick for so many years and doctors could not help her. But when she found Jesus, she was healed. Hospital one day will get out of business. Jesus promises that he's going to come and he's going to put an end to hospitals. Jesus promises that he's going to come and he's going to put an end to disease. Jesus promises he's going to come again and put an end to poverty. Can he do it? Yes. Did he do it? Yes. Where did he do it? When he walked the dusty plain of Palestine and Israel, he proved that it can be done. So John the Baptist, not John the Baptist, Herod heard about Jesus. He was perplexed. And he desired to have an interview with him. But Herod did not have an economical problem. Herod didn't have an health issue. Herod had a mental issue and he wanted Jesus to help him with it. But while he was not the only one who wanted to see Jesus, Herod Antipas' father, who was Herod the Great, he too wanted to see Jesus. His father wanted to see Jesus for the wrong reason. His father was afraid that here comes Jesus who will become the king and take over his empire. So you know what he did? He said to the wise men, when you find the baby, bring me back report so I can come to see him and worship the baby through it also. But he was a fox. He was a liar using good words to God's people to get them excited. But God knows better. And so God told the wise men, you know what? Don't go back that way. He wanted to see Jesus, but for the wrong reason. Now here is son Antipas, Herod. He too wanted to see Jesus, but with a better reason. There are some other men in the Bible who wanted to see Jesus. He was a man by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a very short man, but he too desired to see Jesus. You see, whether you're tall or you're short, Zacchaeus was the chief of the publicans. In other words, Zacchaeus was the supervisor. In other words, he was the foreman. He was the man who was in charge of the publicans. And publicans are a local boy who collected taxes. Zacchaeus was a very wealthy man. Matthew, one of Jesus' disciples, he too was a tax collector and he was not the supervisor. Yet Matthew was a rich man. Let me tell you what they used to do. They were collecting taxes for the Romans. So if the Romans says they are to collect $100,000 worth of taxes, they would have collected $200,000 and fill their pocket and they become wealthy. So here is wealthy Zacchaeus wanting to see Jesus. Poor people wanting to see Jesus because they can't afford health care. Poor people wanted to see Jesus because they can't afford the economy. Poor people wanted to see Jesus because they have no hope in this kind of world except for Jesus. So they wanted to see Jesus. But Zacchaeus had it all. Zacchaeus has wealth, position, and fame. And he too wanted to see Jesus, only with a different idea of the mind. How was Zacchaeus going to see Jesus when Jesus was always surrounded by a multitude of destitute people? How would Zacchaeus do it? But let me tell you some friends, when you really wanted to see somebody, you will go through the length and breadth to see somebody when you well wanted to see them. I tell you friends, once I fell in love with a girl and she was living right next to the cemetery. And because I well wanted to see her so much, I walked through the cemetery to see her. And you see, when I was coming back, mind over matter, the whole cemetery of Duffy began to run me down. So the point I'm making, because you want to see somebody, it is something that you want, you take so much chances and so much effort to see that person. Zacchaeus wanted to see Jesus. How was he going to do it? He was short. Jesus was surrounded. But he thought of an idea because he wanted to see Jesus. Let me tell you, friends, it doesn't matter who you are. Once you want to see Jesus, you're going to make that effort to see Jesus. So Zacchaeus climbed into a sycamore tree. When Jesus, when Jesus was passing by, the Bible didn't say Zacchaeus called him. The record says that Jesus just came up, stopped at the sycamore tree, and Jesus said, Zacchaeus, make haste and come down, because today I'm going to be at your house. I wonder how poor people would have looked at Zacchaeus, because they would have known the man. He was well dressed because he has money, and to see that caliber of a man climbing a tree to see Jesus must have been something that poor people looked on and wondered. Zacchaeus, make haste and come down. When Zacchaeus come down, he was a short man of stature. But here's the thing now. Jesus was not to look up to Zacchaeus. Jesus, I was told by one of my good friends who we studied together, Elder Wade. I never read it for myself, but he told me so. He said that Josephus, the first century historian, said that Jesus was shoulder to head taller than any other man. So if Jesus comes into a crowd and a man is taller than him before he reaches the crowd, when Jesus reaches the crowd, he's going to grow taller than any other man. The reason for Jesus being taller than any other man is that Jesus is not going to look up to men. Men must look up to Jesus. Zacchaeus was in the tree. Jesus can't look up to Zacchaeus in the tree. Zacchaeus must come down and then look up to Jesus. Then Jesus would have lifted Zacchaeus up to the level that he wants to be. And Jesus said, Zacchaeus, come down. Let me tell you something, my friends. Jesus wants to look down to you to take you up. Jesus doesn't want to look up to you. You need to be looking up to Jesus. Zacchaeus, you must come down. When you come down, you would look up to Jesus. You would look in his wonderful face. Sinless is he. You would look up to Jesus. He came down. And you know what, friends? Jesus invited himself to Zacchaeus' house. I like that. Jesus invited himself. Now, Jesus knew very well that Zacchaeus would always have entertainment for persons, uninvited guests. The story was told that Zacchaeus, because he loved Jesus so much, he made up his mind. He knew that he was stealing from other people. He knew, and he said to Jesus, he said, Master, I will do everything to get back in that position that you want me to be. I will sell and return all that I've stolen from anybody. What a marvelous thing when a man meets Jesus and means well. Zacchaeus make himself clear. But here comes another man now wanting to see Jesus. He was the rich young ruler. He wanted to see Jesus because, again, here is another wealthy man who didn't need health care, who didn't need an economy, but his mind was perplexed, so he wanted to have talk with Jesus so he can get his mind straight. No matter how wealthy you are or how you think you are, when it comes on to your mind and with Jesus, it makes a difference. When it comes on to understanding, it makes a difference. So the rich young ruler approaches Jesus. He said, Good master, what must I do to be saved? Jesus told him, sell all that you have. Give to the poor, come follow me. Jesus didn't say that to Zacchaeus. But Zacchaeus was already so far in his penitency that he was prepared to do it. The rich young ruler on the other end, when Jesus told him to sell what he has, give to the poor, come follow me, the Bible said that he went away sorrowful. I don't think just because he has money, he went away sorrowful. It's not just because he didn't want to sell what he has and give to the poor. His biggest problem was to follow Jesus. Now, Jesus is saying to him and to you and I, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. You know something, friends? The rich young ruler, he wanted salvation, but he wanted the way he wanted it. But Jesus wanted him to know that salvation only comes through me. And what I tell you to do, if you want to get it, you got to do it. Follow me. And he didn't see it fit to follow Jesus. But praise be to God, Zacchaeus saw it fit, and Zacchaeus sold what he had and restored to people and followed Jesus. But the rich young ruler, with all his wealth and with all his understanding, he was not prepared to follow Jesus. When people are prepared to follow Jesus, they would deny themselves and follow Jesus. So Zacchaeus went away rejoicing. Jesus had dinner there, and people were upset with Jesus. Persons were saying, how could you go to the sinner man's house? But Jesus knew who Zacchaeus was. Jesus knew what Zacchaeus wanted, and Jesus delivered. The rich young ruler, Jesus knew what he needed, but he wanted something else. But what Jesus tells him to do, he refused to do it because he didn't want to follow Jesus. Let me say, friends, if you're a prostitute, if you are anything that is contrary to God, if you really want Jesus, you would do like Zacchaeus. But if you don't really want to see Jesus, when you see him, you're going to leave his presence sad because you don't want to let certain things go. So you're going to go away sad. There was another man who wanted to see Jesus. His name is Nicodemus, another wealthy man. Nicodemus was a wealthy man. In fact, so wealthy he was that he was a member of the Sanhedrin Council. He was one of the rulers of the church. In other words, Zacchaeus was one of the preachers. Zacchaeus was one of the rabbi. He was one of the teacher in the church. Nicodemus, he was one of the teacher in the church. But something tells him that what he's teaching as compared to what he hear Jesus preaching, he need to have a conversation with Jesus to get some things clear. How would Nicodemus again, another wealthy man, how would he know, find Jesus? How would he see Jesus? You know what? Nicodemus sat down and he thought how we can see Jesus. So he said to himself, if I go in the day, my colleagues are going to see me. And if they see me, they're going to ridicule me and I'm going to look bad. But I really must see Jesus. The hunger and the thirst for seeing Jesus drives him, propelled him to find Jesus. He really needed to see Jesus. And he came up with a plan. He said he's going to use the night to go to Jesus. Under the cover of darkness. Most people use the cover of darkness to do things wrong. But Nicodemus was going to use the cover of darkness to do the right thing to get to Jesus. He really needed to see him, and he wanted to do it without ridicule from his co-workers then. So you know what happened? Zacchaeus went to Jesus by night. And he had a conversation with Jesus. And Jesus said to him, he must be born again. How could Nicodemus, who was such a teacher of righteousness in the synagogue, couldn't understand this simply, I want to call it elementary basic school stuff, that he couldn't understand that. So he said to Jesus, how can I be such a grown man, get back into my mother's womb? He didn't understand. And Jesus said, Nicodemus, you must be born of the water, the spirit and the blood. You must be born again. You're not going back in your mama's womb. You're not going over a 9-month gestation. You must be born of water, spirit. Nicodemus, we're not told if he totally surrendered right there and then to Jesus. But we are told that later on in life, it was quite clear that the seed was sown. And Nicodemus steadily accepted Jesus in so much of a way that when they were trying Jesus in the Sanhedrin council, he stood up and bravely speak that a man is innocent until proven guilty. When Jesus died, it was the same Nicodemus with Joseph of Arimathea and other Sanhedrin men. They went and begged the body of Jesus. These guys were well-to-do, and wealthy men do have a problem, not economically, not with health, but indeed with their mentality. Nicodemus was convinced and stood up for Jesus in the latter part of Jesus' life and his own life. Let me tell you about another rich man by the name of Jairus. Jairus, again, was a very wealthy man. In fact, he was a commander of 100 soldiers, and that makes him one of the most influential, or not necessarily influential, but powerful man. He would not need Jesus. Nicodemus would not need Jesus. They only need Jesus because of their brain. Because if it was for economical, if it was for health, they got the money to do it all. So Jairus' daughter died. And let me tell you something, friends. Jairus loved his daughter very much. Very, very much. Some things happen to you in life, my friends. And if you only knew why they happen for you to get a chance to see Jesus. If Jairus' daughter had not died, he would not be interested to see Jesus. But because something happened to him far beyond his money. You see, listen now, friends, his money couldn't raise his daughter. His doctors couldn't help his daughter. Everything was zero. So he now has to see Jesus. Why? He wants his daughter to be alive again. He made it up in his mind that he knew that Jesus can do it. And Jairus went to see Jesus. And when he met Jesus, he told Jesus about it. I'm not sure if he thought that Jesus was going to come to see the girl or what. But he said, Master, you don't have to come. I believe you can just speak the word and my daughter will be healed. We're talking about a rich man. He believed so much in Jesus that he believed that Jesus can just speak the word. No, here it is now. His daughter is dead. And Jairus had such a faith in Jesus that he believed that Jesus could just speak the word. But it was not so much of him believing, but he sees himself as a wealthy man, yet he sees himself as a poor man when he stands before Jesus. And so he didn't want Jesus to come at his house. He said, speak the word, Master. Oh, let me tell you, friends. And Jesus spoke the word. And Jairus' daughter was made whole. You see, friends, that's the story of the rich man. The rich man, he doesn't need health care. He doesn't need economy, but he's got a brain. But here it is too, also the poor guy. The poor guy, no matter how he's been fed by Jesus, he's got a hunger and thirst after righteousness, just like the rich man who is hungering and thirst after righteousness. If you want to see Jesus, it's whatever reason you want. If you want healing of the mind, he's there. If you want healing of the body, he's there. If you want healing of economy, he's there. What do you want to see Jesus for? So Herod wanted to see Jesus. Herod, he fell in love with his brother's wife. He fell in love with his brother's wife. And his brother's wife was his niece. Her name is Herodias. So when he fell in love, you know what he did? He divorced his wife. And Herodias divorces Herod's brother, so they two become divorced now, and both of them got married. All the Herods, they were Jewish people. They understood the law of God. So when John the Baptist spoke to him, he loved John the Baptist. He put John the Baptist in prison, and the impression given is that he had a time set to let John the Baptist go. But here's the thing now, my friends. while he spoke to Herod, he said, Herod, let your brother's wife go. It is wrong. But his brother's wife, Herod, loved him so much. She didn't like John the Baptist because John the Baptist wanted to mash up her love relationship. But it was not John the Baptist who wanted to disrupt it. It was Jesus who set those rules that it should not be done. And she sought ways and means to kill John the Baptist. And so she came up with a plot. She came up with a plot and allowing her daughter to dance before Herod. Let me tell you, friends, and Herod enjoy the dancing. And he said to the girl, tell me what you want. And the little girl mother told the little girl, tell him you want John the Baptist's head. Herod was mad, but he had agreed. And John the Baptist's head, in one of the biggest nonsense. It may be nonsense to me, but to Herodias, she wanted to get John the Baptist out of her life. So the best thing for John the Baptist, according to her, is to die. But John the Baptist didn't lose his head because of Herodias. It's because that it's time for John the Baptist to leave the scene, because Jesus' ministry now will have taken over. You see, friends, we're all subject to die. We're not sure of the method, but when our work on earth is done, then surely some way or the other we'll be put to death. It's not because of Herodias, it's because John's time now has come to an end on this life and Jesus must take over. John the Baptist was killed. Herod now wanting to see Jesus. But you know something with Herod? He never went searching for Jesus. He never did like the rich young ruler. He never did like Zacchaeus. He never did like Nicodemus. He never did like Jairus. They went and searched for Jesus. But because he stayed in his palace and he wanted to see Jesus and he was desperately wanting to see Jesus, but he didn't make no effort to see Jesus. But Jesus was going to allow this to happen. You see, when Pilate had Jesus, and when Pilate found no fault with Jesus, Pilate sent Jesus to Herod. What an opportunity that he waited for so long. He waited so long for the opportunity, and when he least suspected, Jesus was sent to him. And he was so happy to have Jesus. And so he begins now his interview with Jesus. And the more he spoke to Jesus, is the worse it comes, because Jesus never answered him. He was so happy for the interview. Now he was talking and Jesus wasn't answering. You know what took up Herod now? Pride. I am the king. I have this power. I have this authority. I am in control and I'm talking to you and you're not answering. You know what, when I said pride, you know what I'm talking about? Pride is not taking care of yourself like I take care of myself. Pride here is that he sees himself way above the other man. And once you started to see yourself bigger, better than any other man, pride is going to take you to a fall. That's what he saw. When he looked at Jesus, he started looking down on Jesus. Instead, all he should have done is continue to talk with Jesus. And the Bible said that he got mad. And so he never his mind were not filled with the Holy Ghost. It was filled with pride and he lost out of everything. What I'm saying to you, friends, I'm saying to you, no matter who you are, Jesus said when he's coming from the east and with the trumpet sound, he said, every eye shall see him. Them that pierce him, even they that are buried, they would be resurrected to see him coming in glory. Every eye. So whether you want to see Jesus now or whatever time, there's coming a time when every eye shall see Jesus. Today, my friends, I wonder if I see Jesus what I would have said. But I know from my heart what I would have said. When Jesus come back to earth again, I want to see Jesus because I have things to ask him. One of the things I want to ask Jesus, I want to say, Jesus, tell me about my father. My biological earthly father loves me so much, Jesus. Jesus, he would have done everything for me. Jesus, tell me why my father died when I was a little boy. Tell me when my father died, he never lived to see me become the man that I am. He died before that. He never know how tall I would have been. He knows nothing happened to me. Jesus, tell me why you permitted him to die then. If it was left to me, Jesus, I would have begged you to let my father live to see me grow to be a big man. My father never did that. I never get a chance. I'm saying happy Father's Day to my father. He never get a chance to see my children. And every day I live with it in the back of my brain. I cried every Father's Day. I cried every time that I'm to remember my father never see me. But Jesus, I know, you know why. And when you tell me, when I see you and you tell me, I know that they'll be rejoicing. And I also believe when sorry my father was dying, my father must have prayed to God and asked him to take care. Take care of Steve, my boy that I love so much. And I know he must have done that. And God, I know you know. And then Jesus, I want to see you because you're the one who died for me. My friends, let's continue to hunger and thirst after righteousness. Let's continue to want him to see Jesus for the right reason. Do not let ourselves get above Jesus. We must always stay under Jesus and look up to Jesus, for sinless is he. He will take care of us. Whether you're rich or you're poor, he doesn't see you rich. He doesn't see you poor. He sees you poor when you're rejecting him. He sees you rich when you're accepting. Today, would you just simply, like me, accept Jesus? And I want to see Jesus when he comes, because he's the one who died for me. Until we all see Jesus on that great day, continue to hunger and thirst after righteousness, and Jesus will fill you and fly. I'm waiting for my capacity to be filled after this hunger and thirst. But until that time come, keep sweet, my brothers. Keep looking out for Jesus. And as always, God bless.